This is Chad Biagini, and this is the Excellent Leadership Podcast. Today, we are joined by Morgan Shaw Parker, President and Chief Operating Officer of the WNBA's Atlanta Dream, an organization that has become one of the fastest growing stories in professional sports. Morgan's resume spans more than 2 decades in sports business. She spent more than 10 years at Nike working on 3 Olympic Games, then moved into the NFL with the Kansas City Chiefs before becoming the first woman to serve as the Vice President of Football Communications in NFL history. From there, Morgan became Chief Marketing Officer for the Atlanta Falcons and Mercedes-Benz Stadium, leading the team's brand refresh and setting franchise merchandise records along the way. Morgan joined the Atlanta Dream in 2021 during a pivotal year of new ownership and new leadership, and has since helped grow the organization from 7 employees to 70 while pushing its valuation towards $300 million. In our conversation, Morgan breaks down what it actually takes to lead a turnaround, hiring under pressure, building trust with little time to onboard, and keeping a culture aligned across business and basketball. We talk about resilience, failure, and the lessons she learned out of the NFL locker rooms during some of the lowest moments in her career. We also get into the explosive growth of women's sports, how the Dream stands apart in a crowded Atlanta sports market, and the organization's partnership with the King Center. I'm joined today by my colleague, Matt Rogers. I'm excited for this one. Morgan Shaw Parker, welcome to the show. So Morgan, you've had an awesome career. You left the NFL to come to the WNBA. Tell us why. What did you see? What got you excited about coming to the Dream?
Oh, man. I mean, this opportunity presented itself at a time when I wasn't looking, but every single job opportunity that I've ever had in my whole career presented itself when I wasn't looking. I'm a big proponent of being where your feet are planted and understanding that you're there in whatever position that you're in for a reason and getting the most out of it. And similarly, when I came to Atlanta, I wasn't looking. I was with Nike. I got recruited by Arthur Blank's family of businesses. Ended up coming to Atlanta. Didn't know I wanted to be in Atlanta at the time, and it's been the best move I've ever made. And similarly with the Dream, I wasn't looking to leave the NFL. I was sitting as the Chief Marketing Officer over there with Arthur Blank and Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the Falcons, Atlanta United. It was just flourishing, soon to be NWSL, which we all knew it was coming, and now we know it to be true. But it was one of those opportunities where I'm sitting in 2020 across the pond from this WNBA team called the Atlanta Dream that hardly anybody knew. No one knew we had a WNBA team, and we had been here for 15 years at that time. I've now been with the organization for 5 years. And I got a call from a recruiter, and they said, you know, we're hiring for this president's position. It was just under new ownership. As you probably know, back in 2020, the team was sold. They went through a really, really tough time in terms of ownership transition. 2020 was tough on the WNBA. They had to play in the wobble. And our organization in general was not under strong leadership. There was a lack of investment, and the WNBA team here was floundering. And so my ownership group at the time said, you know, this was an organization with a lot of baggage. And I was interested to see who was going to come in and take the position. I wasn't actually looking for a job. So I said I'd take the call. If any recruiter ever calls, I'll always take the call if it's something interesting, and I care very deeply about our teams in Atlanta. So I listened, and I liked what I heard, and then I got on the phone with ownership. I was curious. And one of the things that they said stuck with me. They said, we don't bet on women. We don't believe in betting on women. And it kind of took me back, because you see all the t-shirts, yeah, bet on women, bet on women. And our co-owner said, Suzanne Hebert, she said, we don't bet on women because when you place a bet, you expect that you might lose your money. But when you invest, you expect a return. And to me, that stuck. And it said, you know what? This is an investment that is a long-term investment for this ownership group. This is not just a, hey, I want to get into men's sports, so this is a stepping stone. The only thing he wants to do, Larry Gottesdiener, is own a WNBA team. And so we have a sole focus to make this team the best in the league. And yes, we're last in the league, but we had a hell of a lot of cleanup to do. And so we're just now hitting our stride in terms of revenue, in terms of building a training facility in the next year and a half, and hopefully an arena soon to come.
What's different about operating in the NFL versus operating in the WNBA?
Oh my gosh, a lot. I mean, it's night and day. But there are a lot of similarities, right? Foundationally, you still have digital and revenue and marketing and HR. I mean, you're dealing with people and humans, right? And fandom is rabid across both sports. But I think what's different is obviously the money is a lot higher in the NFL. Some might say the stakes are a lot higher, but at the end of the day, you boil it down and you're still dealing with livelihoods. You're dealing with humans, human emotions, human athletes. And I learned, in my 10 years at Nike, the voice of the athlete is always at the core of what you do. And so there's so many similarities, but I also learned there's a lot of things I didn't want to do in terms of how NFL teams were run. I loved my time at the Kansas City Chiefs, almost 6 years there. Back in the day when Lamar Hunt was alive, Dick Vermeil, Marty Schottenheimer, I could literally walk down the hall and ask them any question I wanted. And I didn't realize how lucky I was at the time when I'm sitting in an office and Lamar Hunt is drawing on a napkin, and he's literally drawing the MLS championship ring. And I'm sitting in an NFL stadium, one of the first MLS teams that he purchased, with a man who was a living icon at the time. He didn't have to know my name, but it comes back down to humans, right? If someone like that could give me the time of day, what I'm dealing with is humans, right? And so yes, the money's different. Yes, I'm having to, place value on a growth organization that it keeps changing day after day after day. But at the end of the day, it's still humans.
That's a great answer. What's harder than you realized as you've come into WNBA?
Making money. I mean, no, it is. In the NFL, you understand the value. It's been around for so long. I mean, how old is the NFL? 80, 90 years?
Yeah, somewhere around
right?
there. Yeah.
Somewhere around there. The WNBA, we're in our 30th year, right? And so when I came in, we're 25 years old, built on the backs of so many women and men who have come along the way, but the valuation didn't really start to show fruition until maybe 5 years ago. And so I was coming in at a time when elite talent was starting to come in. That was before Caitlin Clark. That was before Angel Reese came onto the scene in the WNBA. I mean, they're doing their thing in college basketball as well. But having to justify valuation, having to, first of all, value something that hadn't really been valued correctly before, but also work with a lot of different agencies that had a lot of different formulas and a lot of different opinions. They were almost working against themselves in terms of what those valuations should have been. The valuation now, I mean, we just saw Forbes, Sportico. There were 4 different entities doing WNBA valuations this year. We had one entity doing valuations 2 years ago. It's crazy. And so they haven't gotten it right yet. They're trying. And I appreciate this year they're listening more. They're understanding that valuation is based on futures. It's not just based on what you sold for last year or what new incoming teams are being priced at this last year. So, revenue generation is hard. And coming from someone who was born and raised as a marketer, it's like, we're the ones that get to spend the money. Wait a second,
Right.
You mean I got to go make money? It's been a really, really interesting journey. And I think, between that and then being involved in labor negotiations on the periphery has been one of the most fascinating things that I've gotten to spend my time learning about.
Outside of the revenue piece, right? You have valuations starting to approach the $1 billion mark, right? Like how
First
are
of
you?
all, how crazy is that? Can we just pause right there?
Yeah.
The $1 billion mark
Yeah, I
for
think
women's
Valkyrie's
sports.
was what, almost 900 million? Yeah, it's incredible. And I even listened to an interview a couple of days ago where Ariel, which is invested into a lot of women's sports and teams, was talking about when we're already past how we're getting to 1 billion. Now it's about how we're getting to 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Right. So how are you keeping up with that momentum, right? Obviously growing revenue locally and regionally is important, but beyond that, there's an element of keeping up with the scale, keeping up with the momentum. How are you doing that?
It's a great question. I think my friend Kia Clark at the New York Liberty said it best. She did an op-ed, I believe it was in Time magazine, and the very last line of the article, she said, set the strategy and don't take your foot off the gas. And it really set with me because that's exactly it. The moment, to think that I've been in this role for 5 years now seems like 5 minutes. But when you think about the things that you have to continue to invest in, human capital, right? People, values. There was a time, even when I came in, where, people were buying into the organization for what we stood for, not for the basketball. They weren't buying into just the basketball. We resonate differently with a different fan base. There's definitely some overlap with sports fans, but how are we keeping up? We're looking at training facility. We're in the process of building that. Our owner has said very publicly he's got 3 viable locations. He's got to figure out which one he wants to go with. So it's open for end of 2027, start of 2028, which is exciting.
That's fast.
It's really fast, but we've been at this for a while. And I get really excited about the momentum that we've got and wanting to go fast, but it's important to be measured in terms of investments like that. When you think about building a training facility, when you think about an arena, where's your long-term home going to be? You've got to build something that Atlanta will support. It's not about the players. It's going to be their long-term home. But Atlanta, the community, the fan base has to support this for decades to come. It's not just something that's going to be for the next 5 years. So how do we keep up? We've got to continue to build and invest in the infrastructure. Data is important. AI is important. Business intelligence, really standing up that function to be able to support our entire line of businesses has been really fascinating and fun. People way smarter than I am, but I get the opportunity to hire them and learn from them.
So as a marketer yourself, how are you differentiating your product here in Atlanta where there's several other teams from a fandom perspective? Like, how are you differentiating yourself?
Oh, this is a good story. Our product is extremely different for so many reasons. Clearly, we're a women's team. But when I took the job, one of the things that I looked at is this organization viable? Not is women's basketball viable, because we know it is, but our organization's named after Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech. And we didn't name ourselves 18 years ago. The city of Atlanta named us. And so when you've got an organization that's named by the city after someone like that, you really have to lean in. What I found out when I came over 5 years ago was that we didn't have a relationship with the King Center. We didn't have a relationship at the time with Dr. Bernice King. And I thought, oh my God, that's such an easy thing to do. But it takes time. It takes intention and more time and investment. And I'll tell you, it took me about 1.5 years to gain the trust of the King Center. And Dr. Bernice called me up and she said, "You're still here. You're still showing up." 1.5 years to build a relationship because we had to live into our name. And that was important. It's important to do the work. There's a lot of people that come in here into Atlanta and they want to say the things. They want to be the thing. They want to embrace the name, right? They want to say, I'm from Atlanta and I do all the things and I believe in diversity and all the things Atlanta is and stands for. But if you don't do the work, people will call you out. And if our brand was going to thrive, yes, it's a basketball team. Players will be here. They will build it. And they will sustain it. But at the end of the day, it's about our fans. It's about the brand and it's about the legacy we leave. So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, for sure. I would be curious to know when you take out Atlanta, like, what are you doing differently from other W teams too? Like, how are you differentiating yourselves as, identity within the league that's going through a lot of change?
Boots on the ground in the community from day one. And it's easy to say we have a community project, right? In the NFL, or in the NBA, it's easy to say, you've got a community program. And I've always been told it's the icing on the cake. You have to invest at this level to get the icing on the cake. And we love NBA. I love NFL. Like, I've been in it for years and years. But we started with boots on the ground. We overinvested with people, the work, understanding what Atlanta needed. We've got the largest income disparity in the entire country here in Atlanta. There's so many things that Atlanta needs. And so one of the things is we partnered with Cash App last year and we forgave $10 million in debt. And then we build onto that, and it's financial literacy. You can't just take people out of debt for $10 million. 3,500 people, we relieved their debt. And then financial literacy, we brought in a banking partner. We're doing financial literacy. And then you bring in investment, and then you bring in wealth management. And so it's this continuum that you invest in with the people that are here. And you continue to do that, and you build equity over time.
Mm-hmm. Elaborate on that more. So people who had debt, essentially debt forgiveness, did they have to sign up for going through a platform of financial education all the way through the journey you just talked about?
Yeah, we worked with a company called Forgive Co. They're absolutely amazing. The King Center actually honored them for the Beloved Community Awards 2 years ago, I believe. It's this amazing company that they have the opportunity to buy down debt. And so we invest in it. It costs us pennies on the dollar to be able to do so. There's a lot of red tape you have to jump through to be able to say, hey, I'm going to help these people in need. We looked at people within specific zip codes around the King Center and along that Martin Luther King corridor, and then in and around our arena, because it is one of the poorest neighborhoods down in that space. And so that's where we wanted to target the people that needed it the most, and that's where we wanted to start. So they didn't necessarily sign up. We chose them through ForgiveCo, and ForgiveCo sent them a letter that basically said, your debt has been relieved on behalf of the Atlanta Dream. And it was the stories and the letters and the tears and the people that came out of the woodwork to say thank you. They've actually signed up then to say, hey, we want to go through financial literacy. We want to lean in here more. Some of them don't, but some of them do.
What an amazing platform. I love that.
Yeah.
I want to transition back to something you said earlier, because there was advice hidden in something you said, where you left stability of the NFL for what you called a role that had baggage attached to it. You've got people who are getting phone calls today from recruiters, from hiring organizations saying, hey, I know you've got a great job now. This could be great if you fix it. How does someone process and evaluate that type of opportunity? Because it's obviously worked out for you, but most are afraid when they get that phone call.
Right. It was an opportunity that kept waking me up at night. That's when you have to listen. At first, I wasn't interested, wasn't looking to leave. Took the phone call, learned a little bit more. Took another phone call, learned a little bit more. And I started talking to my husband about it. And I woke up in the middle of the night. It was like 3 a.m. And I said, this is eating at me. There's something here. Like, I'm the oldest of 5 girls, for crying out loud. There's something there that in me wanted to give back, wanted to experience this in my lifetime. But never in a million years did I think we'd be experiencing the level at which we're experiencing the rise and explosion in women's sports. And I get to be a part of that. But it kept waking me up at night. And my husband said, God bless him, his name's Jeff Parker. He is a woodshop teacher at our kids' school.
Cool.
He said to me, he said, Morgan, well, you can flip burgers, right? And I said, yeah, I can flip burgers. He goes, I can too. And he goes, so why don't you take the leap? Because we'll be fine. We'll land on our feet somewhere. Well, no, we're not going to go flip burgers, but we would if we had to. And so I have an amazingly supportive partner that said, if this is waking you up in the middle of the night and you want to go try this, our feet are firmly planted on the ground. We're okay, even if this fails, because I kept asking, well, what if this fails? I'm the breadwinner for our family, clearly. We're not getting rich off a woodshop teacher's salary, but he absolutely loves it. But he said, let's go try. And if you don't like it, if it's not what it's cracked up to be, we can always go back or do something else. And I trusted in the relationships that I had built, the people that I've met and mentored along the way. And I know for a fact that someone that I've hired will have a job for me one day. That's the point in investing in people. You hope that they go run the world one day, and maybe by chance I'll be qualified to be hired by them one day.
I love that. It's great advice. So when you take a role that is a turnaround project or a fix-it project, what advice do you have for the first 90, 120 days for that person stepping into a CEO, CMO role where ownership recognizes we need change? How fast do you operate? What do you do first?
Well, I'll tell you, when I came in, one of our owners asked me for a 5-year, he asked me for a 3-year break-even plan, and I went, oh, Lord. And that was on day 3. And I thought, first of all, let me find the bathroom. Yeah. You know, what's interesting is when you jump into a role like this, there's never a blueprint, right? There's some fundamental things about turnaround businesses, and I hadn't been involved in one. I'll be really honest. I didn't have all the answers. And I'll tell you, I phoned a few friends, you know, when all of a sudden you're building P&Ls in a matter of weeks for what you think is going to happen. But I knew if we invested in particular things, that was what the beauty was when I walked in. There were 7 employees. Like, it was so bad. These employees were not taken care of. This organization, I mean, first of all, how could you run a professional sports team with 7 humans? We have 70 right now, and we've stood with 70 for the past 3 years. And so what do you do? What advice do you have? I think listen. You've got to start with the fundamentals. I pulled in all 7 people, the head coach, the general manager, the assistant general manager, a social media person, an HR person, and I think an operations guy.
Wow. That included really basketball operations?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
7 humans.
Wow.
The only thing it didn't include was the players and maybe another coach or 2.
And this is 2020?
This was 2021.
2021.
Wow.
2021.
That recently. So 7 of us, 8 of us, including me, sat in a room, and I said, who are we? Well, what do we stand for? Where do we want to go, and who do we want to be? And every single person in that room had a voice, and they had an opinion. It was part gripe fest, part we can, part we can't, part them looking at me like I had 3 heads. Like, why is this woman coming in with such optimism, you know, and why the heck did she get fired? Did she get fired from the NFL? No, I actually didn't. There was a story that ran on ESPN, a little ticker that said I'm the first person to leave the NFL to take a WNBA job. Like, what kind of story is that? But it was comedy. But that's the crux of it, is you take the time, you invest where your feet are planted, and you invest in the humans. And every single person in the organization had to take part in where we were going. And I listened. I dug into every single department. I looked at what had been done and then leaned on a lot of what I knew to be true in NFL organizations and Nike and other organizations that I had been in. Said, okay, this is the way we're going to build it, and taking them along with me.
What advice would you give people in your shoes on how to deal with all of those competing priorities, right? Like whether it's growing your team, whether it's keeping up with the pace, whether it's winning games on the court, like you have opportunities everywhere looking at you in the face, and there's probably a need to manage that appropriately in this time in the W.
Yeah, there's so many opportunities. We can't get after them fast enough. I would say invest in the humans first. I'll tell you, there was a period of time, almost 2 years, where we had a couple of the wrong people in place. We built for where we were at the time. I think my advice would be build for where you're going. You know, you've got to build for where you are, but you also have to have an eye to the future and people that can get in the mud with you. And by that, I mean, they've got to roll up their sleeves and they've got to be able to ask the second question, know what the second question is to ask, and figure out how to get stuff done. If I'm in there putting whiteboard plans, sitting on the ground and mapping out things and getting in the mud, like I expect my leadership team to do that too, all the way down to the interns. And so, you know, there's so many opportunities from a revenue perspective. We can't get after them fast enough, but we wouldn't be able to do that if we didn't have the right humans.
So when you're growing that fast from 7 to 70, how much of it's just get people on the bus in the first place? We can figure out if they're the right people in 2-3 years versus saying, no, I've got to get every hire right, which takes time and you don't always have time.
You don't have the luxury of time. We're not one of these big conglomerates that can onboard people for 9 months before we throw you into the deep end. You're going to get thrown into the deep end literally the day you start. And that's part of the beauty of it as well. I think that's part of being in sports. There's still a few folks out there that don't understand that sports is 365. There's never really an off day. You take it where you can in terms of vacations. But we were laughing in a leadership team meeting the other day, and I looked around the room and I said, you know, how many of you actually started and had time to learn your job before you got thrown in? Not a single one raised their hand. And we had 3 new leaders sitting at the table and they all went, oh dear. But that's the beauty of it. And because if you can't do that, if you're not nimble, if you can't roll with it, if you can't figure it out, then you're not going to survive in this league because it's going to continue to grow. And that's what I love about it. I will hire anybody any day from a league or a team or an organization that has had to dig themselves out and can show progress and can show revenue and can show progression, because that means they had to work for it. They didn't just join a legacy organization, riding, sitting pretty, and doing things as they've always been done. Sports is hard no matter where you are. Revenue is hard to generate no matter where you sit, right? And, you know, the stakes are higher in some, less high maybe in others, but for us, the stakes are just as high as they are with the NFL and any other team, any other organization that I've been in. How
do you keep culture aligned between business and basketball? Like where does culture begin from? Is it at an ownership level, a team identity level? Is basketball and business separate? Like, how do you get all those rowing in one direction?
Where does it sit? It sits right here. I internalized that from the day I walked into the office. I knew it set with me. And I don't know if you guys have listened to Mel Robbins, and she talks about how as a leader, you're the weather. She says it much more eloquently. But if I walk in the room and I'm having a stormy day, I'm having a bad day, like everybody feeds off of that. And I have leaders right now. They're a hot mess when they walk in the door. You can tell there was a storm at home. Well, I'm raising 2 young boys. I have a 7-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a husband that I have to get out the door, people going to school. It is a hot mess in the Parker household. But when I walk in that door, those values and that culture sits with me, and it matters. And some of that real life has to seep in to my leadership, or else I'm not able to be authentic as well. And so I think, how do you sustain this across business and basketball? you just got to show up and be real. And I think what COVID taught us is everybody's seeing everything on screens. My entire team at the Falcons saw the Parker household in full insanity. I mean, you got kids hanging from the rafters. We're trying to launch uniforms. We're trying to make up business and revenue lost. It was crazy what we were dealing with at the time. And I think it reduced us down to the core essence of humanity, right? And there's still a little bit of that needs to come back into the office. And so the players, the team, my business team, they see my kids. We talk about values. Ironically, we talk about love. We talk about caring. We talk about doing the right thing. So my dad always taught me, do good things for the right reasons. And I intentionally bring in other leaders to be able to talk about those things too. We also invested very deeply within our namesake, the King Center. We invested in the Nonviolence 365 program, which is really cool. It's a 17-hour asynchronous learning course. We've kind of reduced it down to something that is bite-sized, where you can take it into the workplace. And a nonviolence course really feels like maybe it's about social justice, but it's not. It's about having hard, difficult conversations across the table from each other when you might not have walked in the same path or in the same shoes that I have. But yet we've got to be able to break bread together, and we've got to be able to come to conclusions together, and we've got to trust each other. And that's really important. And we do that. Players do that. Our staff does that. Our coaches do that. And so that's a fundamental philosophy that starts from the top down. And so it's important. They see me do it. They do it. It's a part of our curriculum and part of our program.
Smart. I mean, building empathy is such an important part of conflict resolution, isn't it?
Oh my gosh.
I say it to my kids. I've got 2 middle school girls right now.
Oh my God.
And I tell them, the other person thinks that they're probably 100% right. Like, rarely are you in situations where someone's like, I'm intentionally being mean. Like, they think that
there is that too, with middle school girls and with boys 7 and 10.
It's a harder
Can you give me
age.
some lessons, please?
Yeah, but it's seriously, like, so many times, like, our own filter, it's like, well, in my filter, I'm doing the right thing.
Exactly.
And that person in their filter is doing the right thing. Often, it's like, how do you get that professional empathy built to say, okay, through your lens, I get that. Now, how do we find a way to move forward? Because there's only sometimes one pathway forward.
And my only solution, every time a conflict comes into my office, I say, have you broken bread with each other? Did you go out to lunch? Take her out to breakfast. From the leaders down to the interns. Go break bread. You have to be there in person. You have to look someone in the eye, and you have to be able to relate, and you have to be able to ask hard questions, and you have to be able to give grace to someone who has not walked in the same shoes. People can throw stones at me all day long, but I understand that there's a lot that I don't know. And as long as I can realize that, and I'm open to learn, a pastor friend of mine told me to be quick to listen and slow to speak. I try really hard sometimes. I have a lot to say a lot of times, but I try really hard to employ that when I'm sitting across the table breaking bread with someone. People want to be heard.
I want to double click on the Mel Robbins bit that you mentioned about like being the weather, and maybe as a turn on that, like what are pieces of advice that you would give and how you weather the metaphorical storm that's always to a certain extent in our world in sports, right? Like there's always something going on and you needing to be let's call it the umbrella, the sunshine. What are things that you're doing personally in your own personal development, professional development that's helping you be that?
Well, I'll tell you, one of them is taking a solo trip
vacation,
for my 50th birthday.
Reading a book, yeah.
I now will do that on a yearly basis. I've had a few friends of mine tell me that they've done that often. They do it, some people do it every quarter. I don't know where they find the time. Their kids must be older. But the balance is not easy. I think taking time to reflect, figuring out where can I find a couple more hours in my day. And I will tell you, sleep is my superpower. I have got to have at least 7 hours of sleep or else I am not a good human. I think it comes in phases, you know. This chapter of my life, I might need a little more sleep when my kids are young, and then next chapter in life, hopefully I won't need as much. But how do I weather the storm in sports? I mean, I'm excited about what we do. I mean, look at the opportunity that I get to sit here in this seat and occupy this seat for a very short amount of time. I'm only renting space. And so my job is to make it better for the next generation, for the next person that comes. My job is to hire my successor. I fully believe that someone's going to come take my job one day and I'll be fine because I'm going to be on to doing the next or building the next thing and hope to be here for a long period of time. But I think it's it's just a mindset. And it doesn't mean that I don't get tired. It doesn't mean that I don't carry the mental load for my family and that I'm balancing things all day long. I mean, we could have a whole separate podcast on being a woman in sports, which is a whole different bag of chips. But it's about time and being where your feet are planted and understanding that you've got to leave a place better than you found it. And it's not just about me, but while I'm here and while I'm a steward of this brand and this opportunity sits in my lap, I'm going to do the best job with it that I can. And I love what I do. We're not selling widgets, We get to build an organization that is going to be the next generation and the next trajectory for women's sports. And we get to live it in our lifetime.
Quick interruption. If you are enjoying the Excellent Leadership Podcast, I have a small favor to ask you. Could you please take a moment to like, subscribe, and leave a 5-star review? It helps us grow the Excellent Leadership Podcast community and ensures we keep bringing you top-tier guests, powerful insights, and impactful episodes. Thanks for your support. Now, back to the show.
And taking a look back, right? Chiefs, Nike, Arthur Blank. What are some key experiences that you think best set you up for this role to take this challenge on?
Oh, key experiences. My mind immediately goes to failures. You have to fail. You have to be able to pick yourself up and get back on your feet and swallow your pride, swallow your ego, know in your heart that you tried, but you failed. You messed up, and I have a few other words that I could probably say in my head that I won't repeat on a podcast.
Stumbled.
But, yes, stumbled. I stumbled, right? Yeah, epic failures. Just things, thank God, they didn't affect the long-term trajectory of a business, right? Like that's a different kind of failure, right? But being able to dust yourself off, pick yourself back up, and, check your ego back at the door and walk back through it and say, you know what? And also be able to tell your team like, hey, I messed up, right? Hold yourself accountable, but let others see that you fail too. I think those are important. And I think I saw through sports, coaches had to deal with that. Players had to deal with that all the time, right? I mean, I'm sitting there and one minute Dick Vermeil's a hero and the next minute he is a horrible, horrible human, right? We would, walk into the Raiders stadium and be hit by batteries by those fans. And we lost that game and tucked our tails and had to get back on a plane to Kansas City. It was horrible. I was also involved in the 28-3, the demise of the Falcons that year, and I stood in the locker room. My job was to go and brief Dan Quinn to go to the podium. My job was also to take Julio Jones to the podium. I got a coach locked in his office. I've got Julio ready to go get it over with, and I had a locker room full of men on the floor crying. In 3 minutes to the end of that game, we were winning. We had acceptance speeches. We had trophies getting ready to be hoisted. We had Falcons red confetti ready to go in that arena. And they failed. We failed. And I didn't have anything to say to the head coach. I had nothing. No words came out. And it was horrible. But I think in my mind, I failed. But then watching all of them pick themselves back up, I walked with Julio Jones to the podium.
Do you remember what you said to him?
I said, I'm the one that's supposed to have the answer. And I said, how do you do this? He said, this isn't my first rodeo. And I thought, oh my God, this is why you're you. And everybody can say everything they want to about how he played or how he finished his career or whatnot. But I thought, my God, that is true poise in a moment where the game was, your responsibility. And that was a failure per se. And he got back up there and he held himself, accountable. And he got up there and he spoke to the media and he did a beautiful job. And me, I'm dying inside, absolutely dying inside. And I just remember that being a really poignant moment for me, thinking, get it together, Morgan. Like, you didn't lose the game. They did. Like this, you got to get it together. And it was hard. So I think those moments kind of shape you in that there's always, the sun's going to come up the next day. You're always going to find a way through, but you've got to keep your integrity about you. You've got to know what you're doing, and you got to keep your feet where you got to be where your feet are planted.
But it speaks to the human element that you talked about earlier, right? Like, we work in such a special product that is sports, that has such a human connection to to us, it shapes us, it makes us, some of us who we are, right?
Yeah.
And so as being as close to you are, I can't imagine, that not affecting somebody.
No.
Despite you not being on the field throwing
No.
touchdowns or catching a football.
I knew it would affect me if we lost a game like that, but I didn't realize how deep it would be entrenched in me to lose something like that. And to see these men, these young men who had worked their whole lives for that moment, their entire identity was right there on the floor in a heap in tears. And there was nothing I could say to them. And it's just amazing how the power of sport. I mean, look at what the Hawks just went through. I can't even imagine that locker room. This city was on fire, and my heart goes out to the organization because every single one of them on the court and behind the scenes worked so freaking hard to get to that point. Steve Koonin always says it's the last true water cooler conversation. Sports just brings people together. There's nothing else. Like selling widgets doesn't do that. Selling insurance doesn't do that. It's sports, and we get the opportunity to be a part of it. And so I take it very seriously because it does bring people together.
So transition over to people for me, because you've built high-performing teams for years. What are just some standout behaviors or traits that you see where you say that person is going to be climbing the ranks? They might be my boss one day. What do you look for?
The willingness to, I said it before, get in the mud. Like, get dirty. You're not just sitting on a pedestal there to direct and to make decisions. If you're willing to roll up your sleeves and get in the mud and actually do the job of someone who is, 2, 3, 4 steps, quote unquote, beneath you, that to me says this is someone special, but also someone who can very immediately transition back into directing traffic and setting strategy. Those are really, really special traits, and they're hard to come by. More likely than not, they come from people who have been through hard times and had to build things from scratch, or had to turn things around, or have seen hardship in their careers.
I think getting in the mud is one of the top ways to win the locker room back too, isn't it? Like your team sees, hey, you care, you're willing to do this. Senior leadership says you're willing to get dirty, you're willing to get involved. It's a culture builder, probably above all else.
Yeah, I had an employee of mine who was amazingly talented. His name's Chris, and he was a video editor when I was at the Falcons. And I didn't realize how I had impacted him at the time. And he recently gave me a call and was sharing a story. We were just reminiscing and telling fun stories and just laughing, having a good time. And he said, he goes, remember that time when you were 18 months pregnant. I swear I was 18 months pregnant during this photo shoot we were doing. And I do remember it, but it struck him as something that was so odd and out of the ordinary. I was, on a video shoot with my whole team. We had Jermaine Dupri, we had Ludacris there. They were doing this, those from Atlanta will remember the Welcome to Atlanta, where the players play. And, obviously that was a song from my childhood, right? So that was my era in the 90s, but we remade it back in, I believe it was, 2015, 2016. And I'm sitting there on the ground holding Jermaine Dupri's lyrics for him, 18 months pregnant, sitting there. And I was sitting on the ground but I'm not saying that every woman should do that when they're that pregnant and whatnot, but I love what I do. I wanted to be there. My team needed me. I didn't think anything of it. And it was just part of, the resilience that we were all building, that we were going to grind it out until the product was right, till that video or whatever we were doing was right. And he was reminiscing with me. He said, why did you do that? He goes, you didn't have to do that. And it struck me. I was like, well, why wouldn't I? I guess you're just ingrained differently when you believe in what you're doing, you believe in the humans that you're serving and the community that you seek to serve by the work that you're doing. You'll go to any lengths. Now, I wasn't going to have the baby on the floor right there, that's for sure. But at the same time, it just speaks to the work ethic, the resilience. And I had a woman who works for me who just had her baby, cut from the same cloth. And that's not my expectation, right? Women should be able to have their babies, take time off, do whatever they need to do. But she literally was there right until she was going to have the baby. We made sure to have the maternity leave and everything that she needed. We worked on all of that stuff. But that resilience and that determination was important. And she was an incredible leader, and I can't wait for her to be back.
How do you find that resilience and determination in someone through an interview process? Because that's where it's tricky, right? A lot of people would say, sure, I'm willing to hold up the sign, and they wouldn't really hold up the sign. And I think some people genuinely believe they'd be willing to hold up the sign, and then 2 months in go, screw this. What did I sign up for? That other job was a lot more plush.
Yeah, the interview process is hard, and I will say I still struggle with it because I want so badly to believe what comes out of people's mouths. But my big thing is, what reputation do you bring with you? And I will always vet somebody by who they know, who will vouch for them. But give me an example. Tell me how, right? Tell me how they'll get the work done. Interviews are hard. I was hoping you'd give me that advice.
Yeah,
Isn't that your specialty?
That's why I came here today. I was trying to get better at my job.
Oh, come on, man.
No, I'm with you. Tangible examples go such a long way. Part of our role always is that triangulation you talk about, right? How do you check the references people didn't give you, and doing so in a way that you don't void any type of confidentiality. You don't compromise, it's probably the better word.
Right.
And I feel like we're fortunate in our seat that you can pick up the phone and just ask questions like, hey, who was on your team during this time?
Right.
Oh my gosh, what are they up to these days?
Yeah.
And so you can find ways to triangulate without saying, I'm talking to Morgan about this specific job, because once confidentiality is breached in a profession like ours, the firm's done.
It's so hard.
So you have to manage it, but
it's so hard.
Behavioral interviewing, we love Hogan assessments and other types of psychometrics just to try to get to know another version of the human, but we've all missed on that.
We've all missed, and I will tell you, I've missed big on that, where it's like, how did I not see that this person who has so much potential, and it's hard also when you see a person floundering in a role where you're like, come on, I know you have this in you. All you have to do is tweak this one thing. Well, sometimes that one thing isn't something they can get past. And what you'll find is throughout people's career, and you probably know this to be true, is there's a few seeds that are planting that are just things that people can't change about themselves. And if you hear those commonalities throughout and you dig down to the core of who they are and the lengths that they will go to figure something out, and have they overcome big challenges, and what challenges have those been, then I think you'll get to the root of what someone can do in the future.
The reference check matters a lot. You don't want the person who answers the phone and goes, what's the job? Yeah, they could do it.
Yep.
It's not the reference you want. You want the reference that they go, hey,
and I admit I've had that exact reaction when I've gotten called with, for somebody who's reference checking, and I'm like, oh, and I'm like, oh God, I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, when that's the first reaction, so.
For sure. I mean, we've seen times over the years, I've been doing this for 20-something years now, where even the client you're working with can reach a point of confirmation bias. I've had times where you share that reference and the client goes, yeah, but that person's a different boss than I am. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's risky.
It is.
It's a risky move to say that rather than to just hold off, because at that point, you're all in. You want them to be hired, and you can't. You have to go back to objectivity and say,
that's true.
What are we looking for? Do they fit these areas of the acid test? And
that's true.
It's high risk.
It's really hard, and especially when you get into these senior level leadership positions in these organizations. A friend of mine who is a chief revenue officer, he was really talking about how he's building his team based on his philosophy, right? And you've got to do that to a point. But at the end of the day, you got to think about, and this is just me personally, I've got to think about, man, I'm pretty smart. I can figure out a lot of things, but I also want to hire people that are smarter than me. I'm not worried about having a job tomorrow. I will go and find a job. Inherently, and I don't know where you cross that threshold in your career where you're like, okay, I'm not going to have to flip burgers. I'm going to be able to find a job. It may not be the one that I have if for some reason this fails, right? It's just that confidence gap that a lot of times women have to leap beyond. Get to that point where you look at someone and, you've got to figure out whether they are only here because of one person's philosophy on how to do things. And is that one person, did you put all your eggs in one basket that's going to make this business work? And you're going to put your business in that person's hands? That's hard. And from an ownership perspective, or, someone who's sitting in my seat, my revenue generators, my, marketers, you're putting it in that one person's hand for them to build around. And I hope they would hire people who are going to challenge them. but you got to have a handle on that too.
I find the best leaders get very confident and strong in hiring people who are functionally better than them in many areas. And then they know how to corral the culture, they know how to set vision, ask the right questions to make sure the team's aligned.
Exactly, and let them do their thing. Your life will be so much easier if you're not having to micromanage and you're not having to get everybody aligned to only your philosophy. And you're right, the mission, the vision, the position, where you're going, that North Star does not change. That's where we're going. You guys tell me how to get there. If it's not the same path that I'm on, educate me.
For sure.
Let's go figure it out together.
And my advice for that CRO would be, you have blind spots. We all have blind spots.
Absolutely.
So involve other people outside your department to be part of the interviewing process. And they know what you need, sometimes better than you know what you need. And they're not going to sabotage your interview process because they hate you. They're going to give feedback because they want the department to do well, because that affects them and their bonus. And it's easy just to say, it's my hire, I'm making the decision. Don't do that.
No.
Involve others who are going to have some level of being impacted by this role.
Yep.
Sometimes in leadership, where everyone always says leadership is lonely, right? There's also an element of being in leadership, they feel like they have to be the only person to influence decisions. And so much of that needs to be, to Chad's point, is collaborating people to influence together. Right? And in your role being kind of a spoke of the wheel of sorts and having to garner buy-in from all of these different department heads, I'm curious, like, how have you done that in your 5 years, especially as you've started to build out your team and hire new executive leaders that are aspiring for the same vision that you're creating?
How have I done it? And being the spoke of a wheel is a really good example. I'm going to steal that, because you're right. You don't necessarily sit at the top of a pyramid. You really are orchestrating, and you're basically the engine that helps everything operate, right? How you do it is you've got to hire for skill set for sure. They've got to be able to do the job, the fundamentals of the job, but they've got to have curiosity, right? They've got to be fundamentally aligned with where we're going. They have to have a fundamental belief that we can get where that North Star is pointed. And for me, it's audacious. 5 years ago, it was audacious to think that a women's sports organization was going to be the best team in Atlanta. And in 2025, we were named by Atlanta Magazine as the best team in Atlanta. It's crazy. Now, the Falcons were, struggling a little bit. The Hawks at the time were struggling a little bit. But you know what? That matters, right? Like, you've got to set that vision. And like I said before, you've got to set the strategy and keep your foot on the gas and don't take it off.
Yep.
You said you want people who align with where you're going. Where are you going?
The
5 years from now?
We're going to be in the deep end. I always say that. I swim in the deep end with big ideas, and I hire people that can say, yes, Morgan, we can get there, but you got to swim and put one foot back on the shore every once in a while. So
I do this.
All the time.
You got to have the visionaries and the big thinkers.
How hard is that going to be to do by tomorrow?
Right. And then you got the operators that are like, okay, Morgan, maybe we can do that by next week, but not tomorrow.
You're perfectly describing our relationship.
Oh, I love it. See? Yin and yang. Ask me the question again, because now I got
Zoom
excited.
Out 5 years from now.
5 years.
Where's the dream? Where's the WNBA? Where are you headed?
God. Well, you think about where we were. We were valued, 5 years ago? I mean, I won't tell you what our ownership team bought the organization for, but it was less than 10 million. It was tiny, and we're valued at almost 300 million right now, but we had to clean up a whole lot. So where's it going to be? We're probably going to be approaching the $1 billion mark too. We have to build brick by brick by brick, and we're doing it in an extremely measured way. And you're seeing the Liberty and the Valkyries and, all of these other teams rise to the occasion, and they're built and they're structured very differently, right? A lot of them are owned by NBA teams, so there are a lot of shared services. We're one of the few independent teams as well. So we have to build this brick by ourselves, which I think we're doing pretty well. And so where are we going to be in 5 years? Making a whole lot more money than we are right now. Swimming in the deep end. That North Star is still going to be that North Star. Hopefully we'll have a few championships under our belt. I mean, we did have a trade happen a couple of weeks ago that really added to our young core, who is Angel Reese and Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray and Bree Jones. I mean, these women are amazing, but they're young. This is a win now, win in the future type of team. So I'm really excited to see where they're going to go.
For someone who hasn't been to a WNBA match, what are they going to experience if they come to a home game for the Dream?
Might you be talking about yourself?
No way.
I mean, it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
You haven't been to a Dream game.
I haven't been to a Dream game, though. That's fair.
What the heck?
Yeah.
How long have we known each other?
Well, invite me. I live in Dallas.
Okay, May 17th, we're sitting in State Farm Arena. State Farm Arena, come on. You got to come back
May
here.
17th.
May
You guys are
17th.
here. That's
yes.
cool.
We're going to sell it out.
What's
it's
the
almost
ambiance?
sold out.
What's the atmosphere?
It's unlike any sporting event that you have ever been to. It is, I'll tell you, so Ocho Cinco came and sat in the front row. He was not happy to be there. Somebody drug him like 2 years ago. He was like, I don't know if I want to go to this game. He literally went on his own podcast afterwards and he could not say enough. He's like, you're basically at the club, but you're sharing a plate of food at a cookout. At the same time, you're watching great basketball, and you got your family and your friends that you don't even know, but they're now your family and your friends all around you. And he said, that's the vibe. And he said, it's unlike anything you've experienced before. That's the WNBA. That's the Atlanta Dream.
That's incredible.
So can I reserve a seat for you?
I have to check my day. I think I'm on a Disney cruise.
Oh, okay.
I think I'm on a Disney cruise May
13-year-old girls, right? How old are your middle school girls?
Yeah, 2 middle school girls and a 9-year-old, soon-to-be 9-year-old son.
Oh, my God.
And I might be on a Disney cruise that day, so I need to check. I would love to come too.
Okay, well, we got a few more. I think we've got 5 State Farm games where we're going to sell out all 17,000. Cool. It's wild. So what are we going to be doing in 5 years? Hopefully selling out the whole season. So brick by brick.
I love it.
But you know what? So basically you're saying that I can avoid a Disney cruise until my kids get to middle school. I've got time.
I think you can. So I have begrudgingly agreed to this, and I have to get over my own attitude because I'm like a selfish vacationer. I want like a nice coffee
I'm with
and
you.
views.
Yes.
And
it gives me heart palpitations thinking about that trip for you.
as I get closer, I'm getting excited about it, though. Because I am thinking they're probably going to entertain themselves, and Sarah and I just get to hang out together because they're probably going to do the
so maybe
kid
I
activities.
do wait till middle school.
And I love spending time with my kids, but at like a nice fancy coffee shop with a croissant and maybe a fancy restaurant, and it's going to be screens and unlimited ice cream.
Back to the solo vacation that I just took. I highly recommend it. I did it for 3 days. It was glorious.
I've had to remind myself that this vacation is not for selfish me. This vacation is for the kids.
Yeah, that really does give me heart palpitations. I don't know, man, but I commend you.
I think
Let
we're
me
going to
know
have
how
a
it
good
goes.
time. I have gone on the other side of this, and I'm pumped about it now.
Okay, you're already materializing this.
But before the cruise, we are going to Disney for a couple of days, and this is a proud dad moment. I asked my 8-year-old son, I was like, hey, do you want to go to Disney, or do you want to maybe go to a fancy golf course with Dad? And he's like, how many days are we going to Disney? It's like 3. He goes, can we skip one of them for a golf course? And yes, we can, bud. So Gio and I are going to go golfing before we go on those activities.
I love that. That's a big proud dad moment. No kidding.
Dad.
To give up a bit of Disney for a time with Dad.
My
to
old
golf?
man.
Love that.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a little buddy in the making.
For sure. We definitely do.
That's so cool. I love my kids. They're the same way. They're getting to the point where I still get the hugs and the snuggles, and I'm holding on to them really, really tight. But, you know, they'll always choose to come with mom to a women's game, even more so than a lot of the men's games. It's funny. My child, Lincoln, who's 10, he had on Scottie Pippen's shoes, which, having worked for Nike, I should know which shoes are Scottie Pippen's, but clearly those are the ones we bought him. And his coach said, my God, you got Scottie Pippen shoes. Those are amazing. He goes, these are Ryan Howard's. And I'm like, yes.
That's cool.
It's happening. You know, and my little boys want to come to women's games and they're telling all their friends that's where they want to bring them. It's awesome.
That's a big proud moment right there.
That was a good proud mom moment. We're not quite to the golf course yet, but we're working on it.
Yeah, you get them on that journey. Do you golf?
I do. Not very well.
Okay.
But I love it.
Do you golf
as
around
long
here?
as it's not serious.
Where do you play here?
Anywhere that'll have me. I mean, I'm not that serious, but I enjoy it. I've got a really nice set of clubs.
You're talking to a new serial golf enthusiast.
Like I'm only a year in, so
Let's
I'm still
go.
on the honeymoon.
Let's go. Yeah. As long as you're not crazy serious about it, you know.
No,
just
I'm
gotta
not
go
good
have a
enough
good
to be
time.
serious.
Yeah.
No, me neither. So we
none
can golf
of us are. Like none of us are
Good.
PJ Tour players, right?
Morgan, 7 questions we ask everybody is what we call a 7-question blitz. So I'm going to run you through these.
Okay.
What sports event have you never attended that you still want to attend?
F1.
No F1 ever?
No F1.
Where are you going for this F1 event?
I don't know. Anywhere. I'm enthralled. I, of course, watched the movie. I love it. I actually was almost hired by NASCAR way back in my 20s. I was recruited by NASCAR, the Olympic Committee, the NBA, and I ended up taking the Nike job. But I loved NASCAR, and I was, at an agency that worked with them for a little while. This was supposed to be a speed round, right? And here I am telling you a story.
Yeah.
But I've always loved speed. I love F1. I just have never been.
F1's fun. You need to do it.
I will definitely put that on my bucket list.
Love it. What's a leadership habit you're actively trying to improve right now?
I think letting go of the brand marketer in me. I love good branding, really great filmmaking, really deep storytelling, really amazing retail design. But my standards are off the chart. And so I have to come back to reality sometimes. This is one of those, I'm in the deep end, swim yourself back to the shore, because, maybe I'm not the target consumer anymore. So I have to trust people who are younger, smarter, and cooler than I am.
How are you doing that?
Not very well. No, I will always be a brand marketer at heart. But I hire people who are smarter than I am. I trust them. And then sometimes I have to let go of my standards. And if the thing sells, if the video inspires, not every little detail, the color PMS green, whatever it is, all the things that you obsess over in your younger years, like, yes, hire a marketer or a CMO that's going to obsess those things, but I got to back off a little bit.
What sports memory holds the dearest place in your memory?
Well, we already talked about our dearest in a positive way or a negative way.
I'm saying positive
okay,
here. Your
positive
favorite
way. Gosh, NFC Championship. Dan Quinn gave me a ring as well, which was so cool. So I have an NFC Championship ring. Never got to the Super Bowl, but that was so special to see those guys on cloud nine, that whole entire year. I had a newborn baby. We were brand new to Atlanta. We didn't even have a house. We were in a corporate apartment for 8 months while I traveled with the team, and we ended up winning the championship that year. It was wild. And that whole year was so special, and to have it culminate in, me being a part of the team enough to get a ring, an actual, legit ring with a certificate from the jeweler and everything, it was so special that Coach would have thought of me as part of that group that deserved to have a piece of jewelry too.
That says a lot about him.
Yeah.
It was cool. Yeah, he's an amazing guy.
Amazing.
I've worked with some really, really amazing guys. Tom Osborne, Lamar Hunt, Arthur Blank, Dan Quinn. Yes, so many guys, so many men who have given me the time of day and allowed me to ask questions, allowed me to lean in, allowed me to learn. And I think more women need to look at those opportunities and say, hey, it's not going to be easy, but you got to get up the next day and you got to check your ego at the door and get back in there.
What's the most fun, unique, nerdy thing about you outside of sports?
I love thrift shopping for designer clothing, designer things. I don't want to pay full price for that stuff.
What's your favorite get?
Oh my God. Well, when I was down in Naples where all these yuppie people, they wear their stuff once, they pay thousands and thousands of dollars for these clothes. They wear them once and they give them to these beautiful consignment shops. And you go in and you score. So
I love that.
And I love to negotiate. I am the best negotiator when it comes to buying a car as well. That's kind of a secret nerdy thing about me too. I'm the only negotiator when it comes to buying vehicles in my family. But when it comes to negotiating for clothes, I get to do it on a more regular basis.
I love that.
It's great.
There's a street in Tokyo that's all the designer thrift shopping, and it's very fun to walk down. I mean,
in Tokyo?
Just in Tokyo, just a strip of, and so it's marked up, obviously, because everybody goes just for that.
Let's go. All right,
But
now that might be my next solo trip.
You
Forget
need-
Florida. I'm going to
100%.
Tokyo.
I'll tell you the street. You'll be easy to find.
Excellent.
I think it's in Ginza area. It's awesome.
So good.
Professional pet peeves. What just irks you when it happens at work?
Saying you're going to do something and not following through. Not doing what you say you're going to do. Asking for a favor like I'm your best friend, but you never, you never did me a favor. You never leaned in. You didn't support, but yet now you can ask for tickets. Big, huge pet peeve too is people who want free women's sports tickets. It's like, come on, guys. Really? Pay for the ticket. It's not that expensive. Now, they're a little more expensive this year, last year, and the year before than they ever have been, but it's amazing who wants to get the freebie all the time.
If you weren't in your current role or even in sports, what would be your dream job?
There's something about architecture that I love. I love traveling the world and going to new places and looking at architecture.
Do you have a favorite
Art and
spot
architecture.
in the world?
Anywhere in Europe. Istanbul, Turkey is fascinating. That was one of the first overseas trips that I ever took randomly. I'm just inspired by culture and how that takes shape when it comes to architecture and how cities were built, and cities upon cultures upon cities that have transformed over hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years. And yet here we are in the United States and we're only a couple hundred years old. So that's what I love.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd be any good at it, but that's maybe what I'd aspire to be. Or a singer. I would be a singer, but I can't sing to save my life. But
You're big in karaoke?
No, I'm not. In the shower and in the car, and that's it. But I would aspire to be a singer maybe if I were to invent my next career. Don't ever ask me to sing. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible.
No karaoke nights.
Nope.
Next time we're in Atlanta, where do we need to eat?
Del Bar, St. Cecilia's, and Village Burger.
Okay.
Yep. I'm a big connoisseur of cheeseburgers. Most every city that I've ever lived in, I've literally scoped out the best cheeseburger, and Village Burger, I think, takes the cake here.
Does it? Mm-hmm. That's great advice. Because you have some famous burger places in town.
We do.
Holman and Finch and some others.
There's some good ones. You can go for yuppie burgers. You can go. There's a lot of good ones, and there's always new restaurants coming. But Village Burger takes.
What kind of burger is it? Like a thick one, or is it a smash burger?
It's
like how would you describe
little
it?
crispy edges, but it's
Yeah,
thick.
that's the way to go.
It's so good, so good. American cheese. The basics.
Yeah.
I just like a basic burger.
I have an eighth question because I'm dying to know.
Oh dear.
You mentioned
this was off the list.
This is off the list. You mentioned that your husband teaches woodshop.
He does.
I'm dying to know what your favorite woodshop project that he's done. That might be in your home.
Oh my God. He's so talented. He's absolutely ridiculously talented. He's remodeled every home that we've ever lived in. He's done reclaimed shelves. He's done furniture. But I think the most favorite is the most recent, which is all of his kids at school made little Mother's Day baskets. They were little Mother's Day planters, and it says Mom, and the little preschoolers glued it, and I always get a project, even though I don't have a preschooler. So all the preschoolers make one extra just for me.
Oh,
so
I
he
love
brought
that.
it home, and it had a little daffodil in it. It was so cute.
That's
great.
sweet. I love that.
But he does beautiful things, cutting boards and birdhouses and, the ever-famous gumball machine. But he's so wicked
That's
talented.
the one class I wish that I took in high school. My wife's brother did woodshop for 3 years in high school and is like so good at it still. And he just made some from speaker holders to things around the house. Which
That's
wish I
Jeff.
had that talent.
It's wild what the guy can make. It's in the innovation and design program. And so when you think about the skills that kids need and how they then apply it to innovation and design and things, that are built from woodshop class and curiosity and how they push it into the curriculum, it's fascinating. He's writing curriculum. He's living his best life. He found his calling, and I swear it's what he's going to be doing for the rest of his life. And I get to bring my crazy job home and set it at the door and come in and make Christmas trees. There was a line of 150 Christmas tree stars that we got to make right before the holidays because he was late on one of the projects, and we had to do an assembly line with our kids of Christmas tree stars, and it was amazing.
What a fun family activity.
It's so good.
Well, we're convinced he's a subscriber to the pod, so he will hear this and be
Absolutely.
so overwhelmed
He's
with
gonna
joy.
love it.
Yeah.
St. Martin's Woodshop. This is a plug for St. Martin's Woodshop.
For sure.
Woodshop Warriors.
We finally got there in the end. We just didn't want it to sound like product placement and advertising. Thank you for joining us. This was a blast of a conversation.
I appreciate you guys having me, and thanks for the therapy.
Thanks, Morgan.